I'm Rick Crosslin, and this lesson is what can we see in the night sky and how do they appear to move? And one of the things that you notice often in the night sky is, well, the moon. And the moon seems to change as the month goes on. And we call these different phases of the moon. We call this a full moon. In fact, recently, we had something pretty rare called a blue moon. We had 2 full moons in one calendar month. But for a long time, people have been looking into the sky and making observations. In fact, I went out last night, and I didn't see a solstice, but I didn't see a phase, and I certainly didn't see a solar eclipse, but I did see stars. I saw lots of stars up in the sky last night. In fact, people have been looking at the stars for thousands, if not longer, years. In fact, over 2,000 years ago, there was a scientist, astronomer in India who looked up in the sky and he recognized some of the same things that I saw last night. See, when I was out last night, I took a look up in the sky and I saw stars, beautiful stars. And then I saw this red light blinking, and that was an airplane. And then I saw the moon, which was pretty amazing. And then I saw some bright, looked like a star, but not quite. I looked it up online, and it was a planet. In fact, the word planet means wandering stars. When people, before television and radio and before we did a lot of things that we do today, people knew the night sky. It was the only show playing. So you'd go outside and you would know your stars. And you would notice something. You would notice that as the night goes on, the stars appear to move, almost in a circular path. In fact, when I went outside last night, I saw something that I call the Big Dipper. But that same constellation of stars has different names, different parts of the world. In fact, I'd like to share with you what is a constellation. It's a group of stars that people see and recognize using their imagination. They recognize a pattern, an animal, or something they can learn from. Here, let's check this out. Here is a short, and your teachers, they have the entire video online, and let's see here. Let's just take a little bit of this, which is a guide to learn about the constellations.
Hello, welcome to Video Jug and a deeper look into our solar system. What is a constellation? When you go outside on a dark, clear night, you look up into the night sky and see hundreds, if not thousands of stars randomly spread across the sky. How do you tell one from another? The answer is, you learn the constellations. The constellations are totally imaginary things that poets, farmers, and astronomers have made up for over the past 6,000 years, and probably even more. The real purpose for the constellations is to help us tell which stars are which, nothing more.
Okay, so here's a star pattern that is actually, you can see it here in Indiana almost any night that's clear. And it is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars. And the shape kind of represents a chair to some people. And to some people, thousands of years ago, this was the most beautiful woman in the world, called Cassiopeia. And Cassiopeia is a constellation, a group of stars that we can see almost every night in the northern hemisphere. And it actually seems to appear to move. It's not the stars that are moving, it's the Earth that is moving, and we call that rotation. And at certain times of the year, you can see other stars because of revolution around the sun. So let's go back to what we're going to be doing in this lesson. So one thing you're going to do is you're going to be reading and studying about 9 pages of your book, and in those pages you're going to learn what a constellation is and actually what we can see at night. Here is an image from your book, and this is basically the northern hemisphere, what we can see at night. And some things like Draco the Dragon, Cygnus, Aquila, Sagittarius, and Leo the Lion, Ursa Major. There's the Big Dipper that I saw, only this part is called the Big Dipper right here. Other people call it Ursa Major. Ursa means bear. Major means the big bear. And that story was made up many, many years ago. These stories were used to teach people how either morals or myths or lessons about life. And some of them were just good stories, but almost all of them had some sort of lesson in them. So you're going to learn about constellations. You're going to learn about why we have what's called the Zodiac. Because the Earth revolves, every month there's a different constellation. Here is Scorpius or Sagittarius that can be seen. And then as the Earth revolves farther around the sun, another one will come up. And since there are 12 different months, we'll have 12 different Zodiac constellations. But all of these constellations are actually kind of made up. In fact, depending on where you live and depending on when you lived, the constellations would be different. So one of the activities I'm going to do when I come to your classroom is we're going to make up a constellation. We're going to make our own constellation, which is going to be kind of cool. So one way to do that is either get a magazine, like here's my National Geographic, so I'll bring some of these, and find a picture, like that might be called the Explorer or the Climber. Or you might just find an image or a picture, and I found this one, and I called this the Camel. Now, if you were a camel herder, and your job was to watch after these camels, and there was some stars up in the sky that reminded you of the camel, that might be a good lesson or a teaching lesson that someone could do. So let's make up our own constellation. Let me switch cameras here. Here is my friend the camel, and you'll have some black paper to do this. I'm going to put a piece of white paper underneath this just for now. And I'm going to pick about, I'm going to put a star right about here by the eye. I think that's kind of neat. I'm going to put a star, let's see here. Let me focus this a little more. Maybe by its nose, of course by the hump, 3 by the hump, and by the rump, and then legs, and then here by its feet. And so if I do that, I'm going to take now a sharp pencil, depends on if you're using a magazine. If you have carpet, push this down. I'm going to make some holes through the drawing and through the white paper. Now I'm going to make the eye really big because that's a larger magnitude, so I wobbled that around. The hump, 3 stars for the hump, 1 star for the rump, and then underneath its legs, and by its hoof or its foot. I might even add a couple of them down here. So it really looks like a camel. Now you're saying, Mr. Crosslin, how does that look like a camel? I just poked some holes in there. I'm going to lift this up, and now I have a pattern right here. Different stars that I might see up in the sky, okay? Different stars, okay? And you still might say, well, that doesn't look like anything. Well, if you use your imagination, maybe it does. For example, here is the original picture, and if I could hold a light source under, let me turn my phone light on and see, here we go, here's my light, my phone. And if these are actually stars, now you can kind of see where, let's see, you see that? I'll tell you what, let me try something a little bit different here. And let's see, if I turn this light on, you might get what I'm trying to show you. Here we go, let's try this. Here comes the light. It's going to be bright. And let's see. Oh, look at that. See, now I got a light here behind this card. I don't want to burn your eyes out, but got a light behind the card, and if I just had, let's see, I don't know if this might not, if I had black paper, this might work a little better, but if I hang this up, and now take a look, that's way too, there we go. You can start to see the patterns there. See, you might use your imagination, and now there's the eye, and there's the nose, and one down here, there's the hump, there's the tail. And then we got the leg coming down here to this one, the leg coming down here, the leg coming down here. And maybe to you, or maybe that looks like a camel, I don't know. Maybe, but you could use your imagination, and that's what people have done, using their imagination and the night stars to make up constellation. This is called the Hungry Camel. And you could later, maybe you could make up stories of why this camel is so hungry. And oh, there we go. I should have made the neck more like that. A camel has Maybe this is called the ill camel. Okay, so you got to get the idea. That's one of the activities you're going to do, which is to make your own constellation as you learn about the constellations in the night sky. One other thing, and this is a little extra, teachers, I have in the Go Further a star finder chart, and this is pretty cool. Because the stars have always been there, you can make these with your class, and when you end up making these, it's just a couple worksheets to run off and a brass fastener here. And these rotate as the Earth rotates and revolves different months. So you can pick the day, pick the time, dial it in, face north, hold this over your head, and those are the stars you'll see that night. Those are the stars you'll see. Pretty cool. And I hope you make one of those. And I hope you enjoy the different things we're going to do this week. I'm going to ask you to actually send me what you've learned. There's over 40 different 6th grade classrooms here in Wayne Township. And I have put up a slide on our Google Documents. Your teachers know about this, so check it out here. Here's what this week's question and slide looks like. It says, what can you see in the night sky? How do objects appear in the sky? How do objects in the sky appear to move? Now, whatever you learn this week, whether it's observations or finding or conclusion or images, maybe you want to share some of the constellations you made, some of the stories you made. Have your teacher put these up on the Google Doc. Put your first name, put your school. In fact, anybody with a Wayne Township prefix on their email has access to this to see what we've learned by doing all these. That's kind of cool. So, and the last thing I want to show you there, just think about this before this lesson. The North Star, the Freedom Star, part of a constellation. You might call it Ursa Major if you were Greek. You might call it the Big Dipper if you live here. You might call it the cart or the plow if you lived in ancient China. Whatever you call it, it's visible in the north sky in the northern hemisphere. But there's one state in the United States that has the Big Dipper as their state flag. I wonder why that state would have that constellation as their flag. Give you something to think about. Hey, I'm Rick Crosslin, and I think science is for everyone, especially you guys in the 6th grade. I'll see you soon.